Hey y'all, what's going on? This is Jackie, and today I'm making a video about opportunities for advancement for unit secretaries. So, a lot of unit secretaries think that there aren't really ways to advance within healthcare, because usually when you see unit secretaries, they're either a unit secretary for a long time or they are a unit secretary for a short period of time and then they become a nurse. Now, there are other ways and other jobs that, you know, unit secretaries can do. So the first one is to become like a department secretary. And a department secretary is when you are a secretary over the entire department. So like in our case, so in the ICU, we had the ICU, then we had our sister floor, and then we had our half sister floor. But the reason why they were our sister floor is because we were all under the same director. So one secretary, so the one girl, because originally when I went over there, they didn't have anyone like that. And then we had a secretary come from the OR. She came over and worked with us, and she already had that experience. Did. She had the experience of, instead of just being a secretary, she did other things as well for the unit. Matter of fact, now that I think about it, she used to work on the one floor that had all the nurses crying because she was that secretary. She was the head. She was like the department secretary, and then she got tired of they behind, and then she went and she went down to the OR. So she already had that experience. So when she came to work for us, she already had it. So they just made her the the department secretary basically. Now she did work as a secretary. She did work on our half sister floor, but she would do the payroll and things like that. So she would make sure that on all three units, so the ICU, the main, the sister floor, and then the half sister floor, that everyone's time was in. And I think she could even see the pay, see how much everybody made. I think she could see that. Um, I think that's what she told me. She could see what everybody was making, but even the nurses. So, but yeah, she would do the time, put the time in, make sure everybody's time was good. So we did have that. Now I know when I worked on the med surg floor, they tried to make one of the unit secretaries. They tried to make her into that, but I don't know. But anyway, me and her didn't get along. I trained her, but after a while, me and her didn't get along because anyway. But we're gonna leave it alone. But I think they tried to make her into that, but I think they eventually took it away and gave it to the manager, and the manager took it back. But so there are opportunities, and then of course the one floor underneath us, they had a department secretary. The girl started off as a regular secretary, and then she became a department secretary. She would do the payroll and things like that. So she would just make sure everybody's time was in, and if anybody had PTO, that it was applied and things like that. So that is an option. Another option is to become an executive secretary, and I considered that. I looked into that for a long time. I was scared. Okay, I ain't gonna even lie, I was scared. But executive secretary is basically you are the secretary for like a VP of the hospital. So like the hospital administration, it had the VP or whoever operations VP or blah blah blah. They have secretaries. So you would, instead of dealing with patients, visitors, family, things like that, you would deal with whoever they deal with. You know what I'm saying? Because this is the hospital administrator. Yeah, if there was a problem, depending on who you work for, you might deal with family. Because people always talk about, well, I know so and so, and I know the VP or so. You know how they do. And so you might deal every now and then with them, but for the most part, you really wouldn't deal with patients, family, visitors, things like that. You would deal with whoever they would deal with. You know what I'm saying? You would be in charge of the VP schedule, ordering stuff for them, for their office. You know what I'm saying? You will handle that. So that was an option. I seriously, seriously, seriously considered that. I was scared. I was scared, y'all. I ain't gonna even lie. And so I never applied, but I looked at it for a long time. I talked myself out of it. And then another is you can be a secretary for a doctor's office. So some hospitals, they own doctors' offices, if that makes sense. So like at our hospital, because at our hospital we had the hospitalist, right? And And then, of course, we had like some doctors that sold their practice to the hospital. You're seeing a lot more of that now. And so the doctor works for the hospital. So before, the doctor had their own practice, and now they have sold their practice to the hospital and they work for the hospital. So we had that. And so, what, like the one girl who worked night shift in ICU, she left and went to go work for a doctor. It was still the same system. It was just, instead of being in the hospital, she was actually in the doctor's office. So, and her hours were different because, of course, it was like regular doctor's office hours, which is like 8 to 5, things like that, and no weekends, instead of night shift weekends. That, you know what I'm saying, it was a different thing, but the system was the same. It was the same system. You just went to the doctor's office and you was Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So we are seeing that, that is, becoming a thing where doctors are selling their practices to the hospitals. You also have, like I said, the hospitalists. They work for the hospital and they're the same way. Okay. And then the last one is going to work for a clinic. So same thing. I used to work for a hospital. Long time ago, long time ago, I worked for Baptist, and Baptist had clinics. And so, you know, it was the same system. You can just, I mean, it would be easier for you if you worked at Baptist as a secretary to go work at a clinic, or like a, when I say clinic, I'm talking about like a urgent care. They had a lot of urgent cares. It will be easier to do that. So there are, opportunities within, so you can advance and still stay within the hospital system, still stay in that orbit. It would just be different positions. I think the one that will probably be the most, you know, I mean, I couldn't say which is, you go from unit secretary to department secretary to executive. That's probably what I would have did. I guess I was trying to jump when I was looking at executive because I know my skills. Okay, I know my skill level. So, but you know, I did think about doctor's office. I just didn't want to do 8 to 5. I just didn't want. Well, let me phrase that. I didn't want to do 5 days a week. When you get used to the 3 days a week, as a unit secretary, 312s, you like that. So that was part of it. Of course, the department secretary, they, I mean, it just depended. Because, like I said, the one girl, she was a unit, well, she did work. She worked on our half sister floor, and she worked from like 6 to 2, somewhere around there. So, I mean, it was 5 days a week because they didn't do any weekends. She didn't do any weekends, so it was a good schedule. And she could still get things done and things like that. Do the payroll and be a secretary. So that's what she did. She did it while she was working. But yeah, I just I love the 3 days a week. So that was what was holding me back. I just can't do 5 days, y'all. I can't do 5 days. And of course, like a doctor's office, that would be 5 days, and then a clinic, of urgent care, they're flexible. They're not necessarily 5 days a week, because they're what, like usually like 7 to 7, things like that. So it could be like 3, 4 days. But yeah, there are opportunities for a unit secretary. You don't have to necessarily go into a different field like nursing or respiratory, because I thought about respiratory, I thought about phlebotomy. You don't necessarily have to go into other fields. There are opportunities, but you just have to look out for them, keep an eye open. All right, well, that's all I got for you. If you have any questions or comments, you can put them below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video. I want to say hey to all the new subscribers, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.